Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Liz Trotter. This is Smart Business Moves.
Hey, y'all. Oh, I need to switch over to comments. See who all's going to be here today. So not everybody loves to read, so I'm not expecting that we'll have 1 million people on this Facebook Live, but you and I, Tom, we can never really get enough. I mean, if somebody told you couldn't read for a month, what would you be thinking?
It depends what my alternative. It depends what I could do. I mean, I would survive. I would survive.
You'd survive, Tom?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would survive, but I would not be happy. It would not be an easy month for me. I think I read a little bit more than you do, though.
I think you do. I'm capable for fits and spurts just to keep myself entertained with trying to figure out stuff and play around and build models and play with numbers.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. I mean, I got to be able to do something nerdy, but
Okay. What if they told you couldn't touch a spreadsheet for a month? Couldn't look at one, couldn't touch one, couldn't play with any numbers for a month?
That would be weird. I don't know what that would look like.
I think that's more like how it would be for me with the books, because I read every day for at least a couple hours. So if I wasn't able to at all, no. And I sleep with a book in.
Each year.
Well, I listen while I'm sleeping. I'm a fancy. Oh, look what I got for Christmas. These are awesome.
What are they?
These are Jabras, or Jabra, however you pronounce it, the wireless.
Yeah, okay. I remember those guys have been around for a while.
Oh, this is next gen. These are waterproof. They have noise canceling. They have you name it. So I wear them when I shower. I love
the company's been around for a while. I mean, they used to make a wireless thing that was kind of the headset. You would be able to do calls and so forth. I think I have a couple laying around somewhere, but haven't used them in years.
Yeah, I think I have a couple of those too, but these are just so much better. And you see how little they are? And they just stay in your ear no matter what you're doing, which I love. Yep, that's the exact spelling. User. Is that Sarah Mitchell?
It might be.
I thought she made her name show up one time, though.
She typed it in.
Oh, okay.
Facebook user, Jabra, type in your name so we know who you are.
But you are right. That was the correct spelling. Or Jabra, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Before we get too deep into this, let's just talk for a minute about what we've got lined up for the rest of this end of year shortened week. We're going to be talking about some books that we enjoy today, sharing some of the whys behind it, and I guess just some general tips in general. Oh, it's Nina. Hey, Nina.
Hey, Nina's doing a lot of planning right now, annual planning. I was on a call with her earlier today. I'm looking forward to seeing where you're going to go in 2021, lady. Got a lot of fun stuff. She's been doing it for a while too, some big planning.
Awesome.
We should have had her on as a guest to show all of the different little things that she's creating. It's kind of fun.
Well, we can do something here in the next couple of weeks if she's available, because that would be Nina's fun. I would enjoy that.
Yeah. And you know how Nina does everything on the floor? Like every time you see her, if she's doing any kind of planning, right? You remember what time was it? She was outside your suite, your hotel room, on the floor.
In the hallway.
Oh, she's done now. She's prioritizing. Yeah, that's what we're talking about today. Prioritizing. Yeah, she does a lot of stuff on the floor.
Tomorrow we're going to be jumping back into the whole KPIs. We've been talking about profit. We're getting to the point where we're going to be drilling down into the whole cost of goods sold thing, the payroll to revenue, and basically we're going to be talking about how we move those numbers in the direction we want to move them. And there's a long list of things that we can do. So we'll do a little bit of a refresher, and we're going to jump back into that tomorrow, and then we're going to be done for the year.
That just
Wow. What a journey.
that sounds crazy to me. Done for the year. Wow. Well, I
Well,
did love our call yesterday. For anybody that was not on able to get on Smart Business Moves yesterday, and you're looking at the PPP or any of the other information that came out in the new bill, maybe check out that Facebook Live that we did yesterday. A lot of good information there.
a lot of good stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah. It's just you and us today, Nina. It's like old home week.
Yeah, let's all just kind of lay on the floor and we can.
No, let's not.
No.
Yeah, let's not do that. We do have the books that we're going to be talking about today are all business books. Yeah, they're all business books. Yeah, we did have some ideas of other types of books, but too many business books, right? I could easily just keep going and going and going. So
The definition of business book is, in my mind, broad. I mean, there's a lot of books out there that have information that can give you different perspectives that can make you more effective as a business leader, as a business owner, as a CEO. So, I think if we just keep our thinking too narrow on what a business book is, we miss a lot of good stuff, and we'll show you some examples here.
Well, and one of our books talks about that directly.
Yeah, that's what the book's about. That.
Yeah, that's what it's about. So yeah.
And because the other thing, when we talk about reading books, I mean, sometimes we're reading books that look like these things. A lot of times, though, it's those Jabra 7s jammed in your ear where you're out for a run or driving in your car or sitting in an airport or fill in the blank. So probably do more audio books than actually written. When I'm actually have the written word in my hand, a lot of times it's more shorter hit things, articles and things. I don't often find myself sitting down and reading a book cover to cover in this format.
Well, what happens to me is I will listen to the book, and if it's good and it has a lot of takeaways and things that I want to reference a lot, I'm going to buy the book because I'm going to need it to be able to do that. And sometimes, I mean, the book industry loves me because sometimes I'm like, oh, I can get away with just my Kindle, right? I'll just be able to use my Kindle, and then I'll have it on Audible and on Kindle. And then I'll also I need the hard copy too. I need to be able to flick faster to pages. So I'll have all 3 copies.
Well, where do you, and I know that you mentioned Kindle, and I know that you get some stuff from Audible, but I know that you have a relationship with the local library and you take advantage of those resources as well.
I get the majority of my books, actually. I say Audible, but I just mean audio. Most of them I get from the library. I use the either the Libby app or the Overdrive app. If you have a library card, you can get amazing books. You can also get, books to read from the library too on your phone or on your Kindle or on your computer. So you can download books without ever going to the library. Actually, I'm sure they would prefer that you not go to the library anymore. But if you want a hardback, then obviously you're going to have to buy it or go to the library. And if I need a hardback, I have to buy it because the whole purpose of me having it is so I can keep going through it. And, you can't do that with a library book. But I do. You can see a bunch of the books on my list. I pulled out a bunch of them today. These are some of the ones that are on our list that I'm like, I see I have Drive in here and the 10-day MBA. Which did make the list because we talked about them before. But still some of my favorites. Can't let it go without at least mentioning them.
So do we want to jump into our list here?
Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead, you get us started on this first one, Tom. I know that you started reading this. I haven't read this, just excited to read it, so that's why it's on here.
Yeah, we're saying 2020. Some of these books, a lot of them actually have been out longer than this year, but they're books that are certainly relevant in the year 2020 going into 2021, given the unprecedented events that we've been dealing with this year. It's a good opportunity, a good reason to kind of step back and broaden your library, if you will, and take a look at books from different perspectives to help you form your strategy and form your plan moving forward into what will be a better and more exciting year in 2021. This first book about Think Like a Rocket Scientist, this is a relatively new book. This came out earlier this year, and this gentleman, Zarral, is actually a rocket scientist. He worked on the Mars module, what do they call the robotic things that roll around on Mars and pick up rocks and stuff. He was on that team, and it lists like 9 different strategies or ways of tackling problems that rocket scientists use. And the whole premise goes back to, back when John Kennedy was president and said we were going to put a man on the moon, before the end of the decade. And at the time, nobody had a clue, how we were going to do this. And the whole way of tackling a problem like that, where you're trying different things and failing fast, and like I said, it's got 9 different approaches to solving those types of problems that are typically not easily solved. And every book in here, I think, is relevant to a cleaning business owner in different ways. And I think oftentimes in the owning and running a house cleaning business, a lot of times we're faced with problems that look like they're insurmountable. It's like, how in the world am I going to solve this? I can't find the right people, or my turnover is too high, or I can't. You can fill in the blank. We've been part of way too many of those discussions, and a lot of times the traditional approaches, the traditional thought processes we use in solving problems won't get us there. So that's why reading books, or at least putting books into the mix that kind of get you to step back and look at problems from different and unique angles, will give you insights and solutions that you wouldn't get if you just, what do they say? If you keep, it's insanity if you keep doing the same thing and expect different results. So this is a book that will give you some unique ways to attack problems and solve problems that you haven't been satisfied with the solutions you've been coming up with so far.
Yeah. I want to talk about 2 things real quick. I meant to talk about them before we got started, but now it works just as well. So first is, you made a point, Tom, that all of these books have to do with running a cleaning business, but you're not going to see any books about cleaning on here, because I feel like we're so used to looking for that resource. So I didn't add those books here, but absolutely all the books about cleaning, the training, all that stuff, absolutely, those are all great books too, and not discounting them at all. I just wanted to make sure that we had some books that a lot of times people think aren't for our business. They're too big for bigger companies, etc. And I wanted us to be able to see that, no, we're running businesses just like the big guys, and we need to operate the same way. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is that, yes, these books are not written in 2020. This is just a list of books that I personally have used in 2020, or you have used in 2020, or we started reading, like with this one. This is our very first one. Neither one of us has read this book entirely all the way through, but the rest of the books that we have, and they all brought us something. So a piece of that is, when you're reading a book, keep in mind, how am I going to use this in my business? Don't just get stuck in the act of reading. just keep pulling yourself back to, how can I use this? How can this work in my business? How can this help me in my business? That's one of the things we do in the MMA group. We have a book club, and the last week of the month, we meet on Tuesdays. And so the last Tuesday of the month, today was our one, we talk about what are we implementing from the book. And if you're reading, my thinking is, if you're reading a book and you're like a third of the way into the book, and there's nothing in the book that you're going to be able to implement in your company, consider not finishing it. I'm not saying don't finish reading it, because I know a lot of people are like, what? That's heresy. But consider not finishing it. If maybe it's just not the right time.
We could be doing another list of books that I've, speaking for myself, have started that came to the conclusion that this isn't worth the investment, and set it aside. Yep.
DNF, right? Sometimes that's the smart move, because we don't have time to read all the books. Oh, and then one more little thing is, Tom, and I know I've shared this strategy with you, and you've used it as well. If you're listening to books, turn up your speed.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. You don't have to turn it up a lot. If you try to turn it up too much in the beginning, it's too hard. But turn it up a little bit until you get used to it, and pretty soon you'll be able to listen to books faster and be able to extrapolate just as easily, even at a quicker speed. So
like if you're doing the Audible thing, it's like speed reading, and after a while it doesn't sound fast anymore.
It really does.
At that point, bump it up a little bit higher.
Yeah. Hey, Denise. Yeah, and don't bump it too much, because if you bump it up too much, you're like, oh, forget it. Sounds like gibberish. If I played, actually, at some point in time today, I will pull up a book. I'm listening to a book at like 1.75 right now. If you're not used to it, it does just sound like, you can't even understand it. But once you get used to it, your brain is pretty quick. Amar, he listens to his book. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's at 2.25 speed. Either 2.25, might even be 2.5. At a speed that for me is just like, I can't even hear it. It just sounds like almost like white noise.
Then you get distracted, and by the time you kind of get back to it, it's like you're 3 chapters behind.
Especially as fast as he's reading them, right? I'm like, oh my goodness. All right, so back to our books. Yeah, I love to read too, Denise. I mean, listen too. I love both. I really do love books. I love them. I love the way they feel. I love it. But I can just read so much more audibly. All right. So,
but you are right though. When you're doing the Audible and it's a good book, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to buy the hard copy too.
Yeah.
Because you want it. There's like something you want to refer back to. They've got diagrams in it. Even on most of the Audible books, you can download, a PDF or something that has whatever diagrams, illustrations. It's not even close to being the same. If you like the book enough, then you want it on your shelf.
Yeah, it's true. There are some books like Traction, actually our next book here on the list. Traction is one of the books that I did not have in hardcover for a while. I had listened to it and I had downloaded all the documents. The documents were great as a download, but then I just kept referencing it more and more and more. And I'm like, oh, I need this stupid book. Now I probably have 4 copies. Because then I get addicted to the book. I need one at work. I need to be able to lend one out. I need to make sure I have one for a gift if somebody needs it, So I usually end up with a bunch of a really, really good book. So Traction, Tom, how did you feel about Traction? Did you like Traction as much as I did?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's about systems. It's just the entrepreneurial operating system. So just by the fact that it's process-based in a systematic way of running your business. I think, there's some of these books are kind of parallel with each other, different approaches to the same thing, but I think it's an awesome read for anybody who's running a business.
All right, there's 2 things that I loved about this book that I marked here. So I always have to take something away from a book, like I said, or I DNR it. Okay, so the first is they have this organizational checkup here. If you went to the convention this year, the virtual convention, you might have done this org checkup with Brandon. He had put this organizational checkup out there. I like this thing. I like to do it every year and just check where I am. I always think I'm going to forget. I haven't. Now, this is like my 5th year I've done it. And I love it. Being able to see, am I better? Where am I? Oh, some areas I'm like, yay, I'm way better. In other areas, I'm like, what the heck was I thinking in this area? So that's awesome. And then the other is this thing called the Company Scorecard, where you just rate your company by month and by quarter in different areas, your weekly revenue, your cash balance, and you can track your metrics, but obviously we're big on KPI measurement. We'll be talking about that again tomorrow, but you rate how well you think you're doing in these different areas, which I really love too. So those are 2 of the big things that I love about traction. And then Tom, CEO Tools. I know you recommended this book and a while back.
This is what the original version looks like. And I guess we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And I was looking at Amazon and it said I have 4 copies of this. So just kind of prove your point. Craig Cramer's, I knew him. He was a visited speaker. I had an opportunity to hear him speak live several times, actually. He's been a CEO of several companies. One of them you might be familiar with is Toro, the company that makes lawnmowers. And again, this was a few years ago. I think he died. He passed away, I think in 2014. But this is a very quick read, and this is something that I don't even know if this would work well on Audible. I don't think it would, because there's so many graphs and charts, and each chapter is maybe 5 pages long or so, or maybe a little bit longer. But it's very quick hit information on tools. There's just tools that you as a CEO need to manage your time, create a mission and a vision, communicate with your staff, measure performance, drive outcomes, get results, generate profit. And, a lot of what he gives you, back in the day, it actually even had a CD in the back of it that had all kinds of spreadsheets and templates and so on and so forth to use the tools that he shares within the book. I presume with version 2.0, there's something digital that you download now.
Well, so I have this one, and I loved reading it, Tom. One of the reasons why I put it on here, I'm not reading, listening to it. I did love listening to it. Of course, I did find the need to have to buy the book, but I did love listening to it. It's quick, easy listen. And to your question, Linda, I don't ever sit and listen. If I'm going to be sitting and doing what I would consider nothing, like with my hands or something, then I'll probably be doing something else. I'm listening when I drive, when I'm in the shower, when I am cooking, when I'm in line at the bank. These are all times that I was just listening to it today. And Tom mentioned a few more times that he also listens. So I rarely just sit down and do nothing and listen. I'm usually doing some automatic stuff that I don't have to think about at the same time. And please don't even bug me about how I'm doing it while I'm driving, and so I'm not thinking about driving, because that bothers me sometimes. I try not to do it when my kids.
But like if you're hanging out at the park or at the beach or something, you've got a hard book in your hand.
Absolutely. All right, so one thing about this book that I really did like is a lot of times we talk about Well, we always talk about having to get your people on board. And one of the big things that you have to do is you have to make your people want to help you get to your goals. And they have to want to work on whatever it is that you want them to work on. And this book tells you how. It gives you some actual strategies on how to do that. It talks about trust and, the different communications, and it gives you some time frames, like how often should you talk to people.
The whole communication strategy with your team, starting with like a one-page business plan that you share with your leadership and push it down through your organization, and monthly newsletters. And again, a lot of his techniques were back more in an analog world. There's different mediums available and more pervasive now than it was when he wrote the first version. Maybe, two's probably updated some, but the general premise carries regardless, and these are habits. If you develop as a CEO, it sets expectations and drives performance within your company.
And the other thing that I really like about CEO Tools 2.0 is it takes a lot of like other books, strategy books that you might have heard about, and takes their strategies and plops them into this book. So it talks about like, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 different books. Like Tom said, each chapter is just really short and you can get a lot of information really, really quickly. So you don't have to sit down and read the whole book. I enjoyed reading the whole book, but you don't need to. I kind of think you should read the whole book one time through, so you know the different pieces to pull from.
But that is something that makes this book unique. We've talked about some others. I mean, this isn't on the list, but this is another book like this. This is the Jim Alampy book, where you can read a half a dozen pages and put it down and feel like you've accomplished something. You've done something and you've ended something. So where some books, if you don't read each chapter in sequence from the beginning and the end,
nothing's going to happen. You're not going to make any changes. Yeah. All right. These books, I love all of these books. And I'm going to, we'll get to 48 Laws of Power. I said I love them, but I have to talk about that one. But this first book is, if you guys haven't seen the HBR's 10 must reads, this is the one on leadership. They have an amazing deal. I think it's the 2021 set. They have an entire set. It's like $65. Oh, it's got amazing stuff in it. These are like their top articles that they put out, but usually it's more than just like 10. But it's going to be the best of the best. And it's going to be, again, short stuff that you can just sort of grab and read. And, okay, I was having this problem, this leadership problem. I checked this book. I can get my answer to it. And like, here's an example. Like, I just wanted to show like this one page. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but the page is small. Here are some things that are on here. Different ideas from different books. So first you would talk about first who. So you've all heard of this idea, first who's going to do the thing. That's one of the paragraphs in here. Build up to breakthrough flywheel. You've heard of that probably in the Jim Collins books. Talks about that, just a paragraph on it, giving you the understanding of that and how you can use it. So it's, instead of going into an entire chapter about something, you get a quick paragraph. The hedgehog concept, again, that's from Jim Collins. The idea of technology accelerators. Can't remember what book that's from. Do you remember, Tom?
No.
We don't have it on the list here because I was like, trying to grab my brain from this. Anyway, just one paragraph again on what are technology accelerators. Ooh, great info. A culture of discipline. You hear these things. What is a culture of discipline? Oh, good. Does that mean I finally get to yell at my people and scream at them? No, that's not what it means. But just one little paragraph is like, same information that it might take you like 10 books to read to be able to get this gem out of. Because how many times have you read a book and you don't use the whole book? There's some gems that are in there. And so this book is amazing for leadership gems.
And Just kind of a side note, it's not a book, but a subscription to Harvard Business Review. I used to subscribe to that for years and still have an account with them that you can just go in and search, the archives and old articles. And some of them you can download for free. Some of them they'll charge you a couple of bucks, but they're in PDF format, and there's some of the best treatments of anything that you would any aspect of business you can find there, going back 50 years.
Yeah, I totally agree, Tom. I have never read anything in HBR that I wasn't like, yes, this was good. It was a complete good use of my time. So I definitely recommend anything that's on the HBR list. But they do have a great 2021 list or group of books that I'm like, yeah, it's not bad either. $64 maybe. And I'll be getting that. Can't wait. Okay, the next one. I put this one on the list because managing leadership anxiety, because a lot of people struggle in our industry. A lot of times people came to this industry without a lot of leadership experience, especially for leading other people. Maybe they're leading their families, or maybe they have been in companies where there's a strong leadership dynamic, but maybe they haven't been in that role as much. And so there's a lot of anxiety around how to be a good leader. What does that even mean? How can I do that, be a strong leader and not hurt people's feelings? Or, where's that balance from? And I think that this is just a really, really great book for anybody that struggles to feel confident in their role as the leader. So I guess that's probably, I don't actually have that one in hard copy. It's a good listen. Not something that I needed to reference a lot, but.
I've not familiar with that book actually. So I don't know. Maybe I should check it out.
You probably don't need it, Tom, but I got it because of we had a couple of students in foundations. One that I'm thinking of off the top of my head, which is the one that made me buy this book. Great leader. She's going to do really good things and big things in our industry, but she struggles. She's a lot of anxiety, doesn't have confidence in her, just her abilities. And so I really wanted to read this book to help her work through that stuff. And I've been able to give her a lot of help in this area. So you might like it for that reason, Tom. I mean, I did like it for that exact reason.
We did a cursory review just through this list before we started, and the 48 Principles of Power. It didn't ring a bell, but I was just sitting here. It's like, that does look familiar, and I'm checking my phone, and I have it on my phone, but for some reason I haven't listened to it. So
I gave it to you a long time, not that long ago. In 2020, I gave it to you to read.
Somehow it got buried, but I'll swing back around and get that one.
All right, so here's the deal with this book. So I said these are all books that we love. This book is hard to love because some of the laws are just great. Like they talk in terms of, I don't have a good one off the top of my head. I really wish I did too.
From a value standpoint, they're hard to embrace.
They are, yes, they are hard to embrace. And some of them I'm more like, yeah, I don't want to win that bad. But these are the things that other people are using in their business. These are the laws of power that people go to. There's a lot of history in this book. And Tom, I really think you will like this book.
Yeah, that's what turned me on. There was a book, and this is going back a while, like Leadership Skills of Attila the Hun. And it sounds like this might be,
yeah. It is a great book to read when somebody else is reading too, and you can kind of go back and forth on. For those of you that know Well GE in Chicago, we like to read together, and so we're kind of like, well, this book is tough. This book is hard to embrace, but I do recommend it because it gives you a very wide perspective on the idea of power and your power, your control, and how you can take charge and take control, especially when sometimes I know people can feel like powerless, like there's nothing I can do. This book will give you 48 different things that you could do, and there is, I promise you, there's something that you can do in every situation. I also like a quote that goes around every once in a while. I'm not going to get it exactly right. I'm going to butcher it. But the quote is about the level of problems that you can handle is directly related to the level of success that you can attain. So if you can only solve little problems, you can only get a little bit of success. If you can solve big problems, you're queued up for big success. So you gotta get good at solving problems. That's why.
Which is why reading some of these books could be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I had to put profit first on here. Everybody's reading this book in 2020. If you haven't jumped on the bandwagon yet, jump on the bandwagon. Profit first. Super simple concept. Super simple. You don't have to follow the book by exactly. You don't have to have exactly. This book is all about having multiple accounts. Okay. For those of you that remember this old school idea, if you've ever heard of the envelope idea, where you would get your paycheck, you would take all the cash, you'd put it in envelopes. This is my grocery money, and this is my utility money, and this is my, family money. And then you would only spend out of your envelopes. You couldn't borrow from envelopes. You could only spend what was in your envelope. That's what Profit First is. It's just for running a business. And the bottom line is the very first money that comes out is your profit. So you take your profit out first, and then you get to spend all the rest of the money. And I really wanted to have this in there because, Tom, we work with foundations, especially. We have so many people that put profit last. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're just, if you put it last, sometimes there isn't any. So,
This can change the way a lot of people look at their business and the value that they get out of it. Besides, Malkowitz talks about being a Virginia Tech graduate when I went to school at Virginia Tech. So
I didn't know that. I hadn't heard that. Now I do have 2 books from Mike Malkowitz on here, but I had no option. I had to put Profit First on just because so many people have gotten so much out of this book, especially in 2020. And you and I are spending a lot of time talking about KPIs and getting to the profit point, right? So that we're not just working.
We've rebranded, Cleaning Business Builders / CKI as Cleaning Profit Builders. I mean, I guess over the time you get clarity and insight, and profit is where the magic happens. That's how you have great jobs, great service, build value in your business. You got profit, you have an opportunity to do all those things. Without profit, you can't do anything.
And really, without profit, is it really a business? I'm just not sure. It's lots of words for it, but I don't think business is one of them. So, if you haven't read this book, if you have any problems with profit at all, if you don't understand it, if you don't have enough of it, anything, read this book. All right. How about The Lean Startup, Tom? Have you read this book?
I don't think I have.
All right, so this book has been around for a really long time. Well, maybe not a really long time, but I know it's been on the bestsellers list for a while. I've heard it referenced many times. This is another one of those books that I had to buy. Right. This book especially is good for people that. Oh, okay. So sorry. Let me be clear here first. This book is not about what's it called? What is Derek called? It's not like about guerrilla marketing. It's not about the starting up cheaply. That's not what it's about.
It's not bootstrapping.
No, it's the lean methodology of business. So starting up your business in the lean methodology, which is
like lean manufacturing with small inventories and
yes,
exactly. Focusing on return on capital, things like that.
Yep, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Growing your business in a planned way for more profit and more streamlined, less waste. Waste is a big thing in the lean methodology. And because in our industry, this is a huge thing. We really have to focus in on how we're going to get more money out of the labor that we have. So this is a really, really good book. It's a good introduction to these ideas and principles. So highly, highly recommend that book. All right, and then the next book on this list is Fix This Next. I also have this book. Okay, so this book, if you tried to sit down and read this book, you probably hated this book. Okay, because this is not a sit down and read book. This book, how I have found works best. You read this book, right, Tom?
Yeah, well, Audible.
Yeah, Audible, same thing. So this book, the best way I know of to read this book is read the first chapter and then read the second chapter and then take the little quiz. There's a quiz that's on after the second chapter, and that will tell you which of the rest of the chapters to read in what order. Because if you just tried to read this book in order, oh my gosh, like it is so hard to read. It sounds choppy. It's dry. It seems kind of like, what the heck? It's almost like bullet points. But if you read the book in the way that I'm telling you, read it, take the little quiz, and then find out what is the next thing that you need to be fixing. That's what this book is about, right? It talks about the different areas of your business. Did you have something you wanted to say, Tom?
Yeah, and if you do it in the Audible book, there's a download that has the graphics along with the quiz that Liz is talking about.
Yeah, just go in there and take that little quiz. And then work on, it'll tell you what you need to fix next in your business based on your results. And then just go to that section of the book and it tells you how to fix that thing next. Just work on that. Then after you've done that, take the quiz again, find out what the next thing is, and work on that next. Reading the book that way is super, super helpful. People that I know that have done it that way are like, oh my gosh, I love this book. But before, poof.
So, but the overall premise is that we get overwhelmed as CEOs, as business owners, and there's a million things that we can be doing, right? There's a million problems that need to be fixed.
Absolutely.
So we can't fix everything at once. So what do we fix?
Yep.
We've all wrestled with that, and this book is a framework, a methodology to help you in a logical way sort that out and fix the right thing next.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking with Nina today. She's, if you're still on here, Nina, and she's like, everything's so important. I don't understand. How do you decide what to work on first when everything's important? And one of the things that we talk about is people, profits, and process. So first is people, then it's profits, and then it's process. I know a lot of people are like, no, profits first. No, people first, because the people will help you with the profits. You got more people working on that thing at the same time. So people, profits, and process. And then they also talk about, Nina's like, no, not that for me. But they usually tell you anything that you're passionate about, put that first. Because if you feel passion around a project, regardless of what it is, if it fits in with the things that are important in your business and you have passion around it, do that first. You'll get it done faster. You'll be energized for it, and it'll get you hyped up to do the next things.
Yeah, was that McAllowitz or? I mean, that's
That's
something of the last few days. That's
Yeah, it's not a McAllowitz idea, but McAllowitz follows that same idea.
yeah. But there's another book, or it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's certainly your odds of being successful are a lot greater if you have a passion for it, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And then all of these books are going to be talking about too. All of the ones in the strategy and the growth are going to be talking in some way, shape, or form about matter, meaning, measure, and accountability. Right? It's got to matter. There's got to be some meaning in there. Make sure that you're measuring stuff. Every book that we're talking about is going to be talking about measurement in some way, shape, or form. And then there's got to be some level of accountability in there too. All right, we're getting tight on time. I want to make sure that we get to the fun page. So we'll kind of go quick through here. So the Chimp Paradox for self-improvement. Have you read this book, Tom?
I have not.
I added this one at the last minute, and I didn't think I had shared it with you. So this book is awesome. It's under self-improvement because it's good for helping you manage your mind. So they call it the Chimp Paradox. A lot of you have probably heard of the monkey mind, right? That part of your brain that just makes you do these things, and later you're like, why'd I do it? So the Chimp Paradox helps you understand why you do the things that you do and how to control that chimp, how to make sure that the chimp isn't running the show. So I really enjoy this kind of book anyway. So this book was really fun for me, and it ties into a lot of other types of books that I've recommended in the past. But this is just a newer version, a newer look at this type of thinking. Okay. High performance habits. So this book, again, this is under self-improvement. First thing I want to say about high performance habits. Have you read this one, Tom?
I'm trying to think. It looks familiar. I'm not putting it together though. It's been out for a while, hasn't it?
There went a bunch of my books. So this is this book.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about this book is if you go right now to buy it, you can get it for free. So literally for free, the hardback book. You're going to have to buy if you want Audible, which I did have to buy the Audible version. But there are, but this book is free. This book is fun, easy to read.
Why is it free? Do you pay for shipping? I mean, how does that work?
Because he's a business coach. And so he's sure that if he sells you this book, then you're going to sign up for his program.
Okay.
And he's right, because I know a lot of people that have. He runs HPX coaching. And so, I've done some of his training. He sent me the book, and yeah, I drank his Kool-Aid. So he's a fun guy to watch too. If you haven't watched him, he has a lot of YouTube videos. He does a lot of stuff. Brendan Burchard, HPX, you can find him there. So yeah, he's awesome. If you haven't, and this is just about different habits that you need to be practicing if you want to be performing at your highest level. So I don't really ever get sick of this book. Like if you looked at my book, there's tons of notes. Like under increased productivity, he usually will give you 3 things. Here are the 3 things under increasing productivity, the 3 habits. You have to increase the outputs that matter. Stop just trying to get things done. Make sure that all the outputs that you're putting out there are things that actually matter to your goals and what you're trying to get to. Chart your 5 moves. So don't just start doing stuff. Have 5 things, kind of like your KPIs, whatever it is that you're tracking, and track it. Track those 5 things. And then get insanely good at key skills. Don't keep trying to fix all your problems and look at what's wrong with what you're doing. Instead, find out the key skills that need to happen and get good at that. So I I just really love all of the things that he says. I'm like, I agree. Do I do it? Yeah, not as much as I would like to, which is why I keep this on hard copy so that I can keep looking and seeing where I'm falling short. But it's a great book. And Tom, I'll let you talk a little bit about range. We both have loved this book, but you introduced me to this book.
Liz and I have talked, over the years about just the cleaning industry as a whole. A lot of us are very focused on educational material specific to how to remove soil from a home and dispose of it in a responsible way, or some of the management techniques just specific to house cleaning. And we've had educational opportunities in the past through like ARCSI and some other things where speakers who've come from outside of the industry. Who's the poker player?
Annie Duke.
Yeah.
I love her.
There were a lot of people that really didn't, though, because she didn't clean homes, or she didn't really,
She never talked about anything having to do with cleaning or cleaning equipment or employees. A lot of people did not like her presentation at all.
Yeah. And the book kind of compares and contrasts, the schools of thought of just becoming a specialist and spending all of your time focusing on one particular, vertical. They used analogies of like sports figures. They talk about, professions, medical industry, and a lot of research. And I guess the long and the short of it is, if we can allow ourselves to study and grow and have interests that are broader and not just drill down into one small vertical and spend all our time there, that we're able to look at our businesses, look at problems in general, and come up with unique solutions that aren't part of the standard school of thought, if you will. And that's how some of the biggest insights, some of the biggest the developments and solutions and innovation comes from people who aren't necessarily from within the field. They come at a problem from an angle that they might not have any particular, experience with that particular industry, but they've got experience somewhere else, and they're able to see it from an angle that all the inside experts can't, and they come up with better solutions. If you got kids and you're trying to figure out how to guide them, especially if they're into sports or music, outside interests, or just the education as a whole, there's some wisdom in this book that you might want to read and kind of think about, how you want to raise your kids.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. I hadn't even thought of it from that perspective. I think I'll recommend it to my daughter. She loves that kind of stuff. But yeah, I love this book. They have a lot of really cool examples in here too, I thought. What was the one about, was it repairing the heart, the medical one? Do you remember that one?
The heart, the heart specialists are basically, they have a protocol in terms of how to address problems, and basically every problem that everybody with a heart condition, they basically just follow the standard operating procedure, and a lot of times misdiagnose and do things where people end up getting bad outcomes. And they did some studies that found out that the survival rate for heart patients in some hospitals went up when there were national heart conventions, and all of the heart doctors were away because the generalist would diagnose and treat the problem, I guess, from a more, just trying to figure it out standpoint, rather than just going to the standard playbook. And a lot of times when we get too buried into just looking at our world through the way that we always do it, just go vertical in that one place. We can't even see what's in front of us because this is what we do, and we just
It's the way it's always been.
go.
And so if you ever find yourself saying or thinking to yourself, this way we've always done it, then you need to get this book, because that's some stinking thinking right there. All right, we are running out of time real fast here, Tom. We got 3 minutes, and this is my favorite slide. We both loved all of these books, right?
Chris Voss is an amazing dude. Tell us about Chris.
I love Chris Voss. He is a FBI profiler, or he was. I don't know that he does that anymore.
No, he writes books and speaks.
And he's on Facebook. I follow him on Facebook. And so he has good wisdom on Facebook as well. But he's awesome. So Never Split the Difference. Basically, this book is about, it's not like it says negotiating as if your life depended on it. It's not just about negotiations. It's about communication and how to get the outcomes that you want from everything in your life. So that's basically, I would say, more what it's about. Wouldn't you, Tom?
Yeah, but there's definitely techniques that you can incorporate in terms of how you listen and how you communicate to modify other people's behavior to get them to behave the way that you want them to behave.
Yeah.
And that sounds kind of contrived, but that's leadership kind of, that's what leadership is in some way. You're trying to motivate people, lead people, encourage people to behave in a certain way. And this guy learned how to do it by being an FBI negotiator. And there's a lot of neat tools, and we're always negotiating with somebody every day as a CEO of our company. And this is some tools in here that are useful. And sometimes I find myself, this is one of the books I pull off the shelf every once in a while, because I find myself in a situation I'm not sure how to do it. And it's like, I kind of remember, and I have to go back and flip through and said, okay, yeah, this is right. And it's almost like a reference.
So this book, you need to read it. If you've ever had the thought, well, you can't change other people. Oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can. You want people to do what you want them to do? Read this book. All right, we got to move on because we literally have 1 minute left. So what do you say about Shoe Dog? I put it on the list because it's just a good book.
It's an awesome book. It's like one of those books, like when it's over, you're sad. You're sad. It's like where's the next chapter? How can it be over?
I want to still read. Like, he's still alive. Come on, tell us more about where's Shoe Dog 2?
Do yourself a favor. I don't know anybody that doesn't just absolutely love this book.
Yeah, everybody that I had it recommended to me, and I recommended it to Tom. Tom, I know you've recommended it to people. Everybody loves this book. It is just a great read. Did you cry during this book, Tom? At least choke up?
Yeah, a couple times. But it's not. I mean, but it's about the struggle of building a large successful business, and it's inspirational. And it's building Nike is different than running a house cleaning business, but there are vignettes and stories and examples in here that will be inspirational and useful to you as a leader in your organization as well.
And it is just inspirational. Tom, that was a perfect word for that. I love this book. All right, go ahead. Autonomy. Hit us quick, Tom.
And the last book is about the world that's coming in terms of electric vehicles, in terms of cars that can drive themselves, that you don't need a human being to drive them. And those two things together are going to result in autonomous fleets of vehicles. In the future, fewer people are going to own vehicles. They're not going to need to. They're just going to, go to an app on their phone, and a driverless Uber is going to show up. They're going to take them from place to place. And if you don't believe it, read this book and you will. And there's a lot of good things are going to come out of that. And the reason it's on the book, on this list, it's a really interesting read. It's a good book. But two, you're in the logistics business. If you're in the house cleaning business, and this isn't happening next week, but when you start thinking about 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and you start thinking about, where do I want my business to be long term, you need to have autonomous driving vehicles in your consideration set, and then you need to at least have that on the radar screen, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and it will profoundly change how the home service industry works.
Yep. And it's a fun read too. So that's why it's on fun, where really it's got a lot more going on for it than just fun, absolutely strong business book, but it's a fun read. So
some of the other books on this list are worth the read, but you're working. And when it's over, you're almost relieved. These books, when they're over, you're kind of sorry. You wish there was more.
Yeah, you love these books. So, all right, y'all. I hope those of you that made it to the call today got some good takeaways. There's some fun, great books here. I hope you get a lot out of.
Tomorrow, same time, 5 o'clock Eastern, back to KPIs, back to profits. We're getting into good stuff. We're going to be talking about actionable steps that you can take to actually drive the green numbers up and the red numbers down. So you guys be safe. We'll see you tomorrow at 5. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.